No, I don't think you should show dicks in comic books.
Okay, maybe not this one.
You're like all these old school video game questions I wasn't expecting.
So, Donny, thank you for finding some time for us.
Yeah.
We are from Komiksové Noviny, which basically means comics news. We have a YouTube channel, and each week we are bringing the Czech audience, news from the comics world.
Cool.
And lately, we are mentioning you a lot.
Oh, cool.
So
we would like to ask you to maybe introduce yourself, or like bring you to the camera for the Czech audience.
Yeah, for the Czech
Can
audience.
you tell them?
I'm Donny Cates. I write a bunch of stuff. I write Venom and Cosmic Ghost Rider and Death the Inhumans and Doctor Strange, Thanos I used to. Redneck, Baby Teeth, God Country, a bunch of other stuff. I think I'm not saying it all, but that's it, I think. And Guardians of the Galaxy next year.
Yeah? Cool. So we can imagine that because you are like A-list writer right now, I can imagine that you are doing a lot of interviews lately.
Sure.
And you are getting shitloads of questions. So I'm wondering which question is usually the most annoying one, so we can avoid it.
Well, none of them are annoying. I never thought this was ever going to happen. I never thought that I was ever going to write anything that anyone would care about. So none of it's very annoying. I've had to give my origin story maybe a million times. Of like how I started writing comics, stuff like that.
Okay, maybe not this
one. So that one's, I'm happy to answer anything.
Sure. Go ahead.
So what's my origin story? Is that
what's
it?
your maybe what was like the breaking point when you realized you are getting this like big writer with Marvel? Because you had like some skyrocket like career.
Yeah, it's been real weird. I've been working in the industry professionally for 6 years or so, but it wasn't until God Country came out last year. It was January 11th, 2017. Jeff Shaw and I, who I've done 6 books with now. I started with Buzzkill and then Paybacks and then God Country and then Thanos and then what the hell else are we doing? Guardians. Yeah, I think I'm missing one. We were in Austin where I live, and we were signing all day, so we didn't get to really see the reaction to that book until we got home that night. When we got home, we got on Twitter, and it was just it exploded, and that's kind of when we knew that something was happening. It was very weird. And then maybe like a month or so after that, Marvel called me and wanted me to take over Thanos, and I was able to bring Jeff along. And then Thanos came out, and that was the beginning of it. People really liked that Thanos thing, and they really liked the Cosmic Ghost Rider thing that we did. It's been insane since then.
So there was like some breaking point.
I think so. Yeah, people started to kind of pay attention. He already knows.
So let's get back to your older works.
Sure.
Ghost Fleet originally struggled.
Yeah.
I read the history on the backside, but it was released like a year ago by Image.
Yeah, right.
And I'm wondering if you have some older stories you would like to bring to the audience now, because you are like more famous. All your books are very hyped, very popular. So is there any older stuff you think you would be able to release now?
I don't know. Pretty much my entire back catalog of creator-owned books has been re-released by Image. Buzzkill and the Paybacks is one that no one really pays attention to. Is another book that I did at Dark Horse that got canceled, and then we finished it at Heavy Metal, and we re-released that in trade at Dark Horse, but it hasn't found the same foot. It's real weird though. It's really goofy. My Star Trek stuff, I'm really proud of. I wrote 2 issues of Star Trek. I'm not even that big of a Star Trek fan, but I wanted to do it just to see if I could do it. And I'm really proud of that stuff. So read my Star Trek stuff, I guess. What else? I don't know. I have an Image book called A Tomahawk that I'm very proud of, that my tattoo artist Ian and I do, that we're going to be doing more of, but
it was being published in Image Plus, right?
It was originally in Heavy Metal magazine, and then we took it to Image, and we continued the story in the Image magazine, and we collected it into one volume. And then the next volume of it that we're going to do, Grant Morrison's going to write it, and Ian's going to paint it, and I'm going to edit it. I'm not really doing anything on it. So there's more of that coming, but I think it's some of the coolest shit I've ever done.
Sure.
Because I'm not really in control of it. Ian just paints whatever the hell he wants with no regard to story, and then I go over it and script it and try and make it make sense. So it's like classic like Stan and Jack style, like classic comic style. So that's really fun. So I guess read a Tomahawk, yeah.
And you mentioned Star Trek, so you consider, because there is also the argument Star Trek versus Star Wars. So which type of person are you? I'm
a Trek guy more than a Wars guy. Star Wars is, I don't know, man. We could do an entire show on my disdain for Star Wars.
Okay.
I mean, if you have the time.
So no chance to see you, writing some Star Wars stuff.
No, not anymore. I've been asked by Marvel to like pitch on it and stuff, and I've told them that like you don't want me to write Star Wars because there's all these interviews that I've done over the course of my career that I just talk shit about Star Wars, and I was like, those are going to come out if I start writing Star Wars.
Okay.
I almost wrote Star Wars when I was at Dark Horse. Back when Dark Horse had Star Wars, I was this close, and then they lost it to Marvel. But I was going to do this really weird. So my Star Wars story that I was going to write, they would never let me do it now in a million years, because in the prequels, it's established that your Star Wars, your powers are in your blood, the midichlorians, right? Yeah. So already Marvel's out, right? As soon as I bring up that word. So I figured if it's a thing in your blood, well then it's only a matter of time before someone turns that into like a drug. But they would be able to sell that to people, right? You could make it. And so I was gonna have Cloud City infested with this, with like force powers, and have like junkies everywhere with like force powers and shit. And then the Empire has to like silence it, so they hire Boba Fett. They're just like, hey, you want to go murder a whole bunch of fucking like Force dudes? And he's like, yeah. So that was like the whole story. Yeah. That's what I do. Force junkies, man, right?
I would read it.
So of course you would read it. Everyone would read it. But Marvel will never let me do it in a million years. So. I wonder why. I'm maybe not the guy to write Star Wars.
Okay, so let's talk about Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to Venom. The movie was released, and we are wondering, do you get influenced by the movie because you are the writer? Is there a link between, I'm wondering, is there a link between you and the screenwriters? Is there someone to control what you...
No. I mean, if it were a Marvel film proper, maybe sometimes in a blue moon, the Marvel Studios guys will reach out. Not often anymore. But it's a Sony film, so there was a complete firewall between us. And generally speaking, just on a whole, I'm a firm believer that the film should chase us, not us chase them. And especially with Venom, the movie. The Venom movie was very clearly influenced by Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes, stuff like that. And what I'm doing in Venom is far away from that. They're not, those films have a long way to go before they start to introduce symbiote gods and dragons and shit, right? So I have consulted on some Venom media things that I can't talk about, but hopefully as we go on, because that Venom film did very well, it sold a lot, right? Sure. Hopefully Ryan Stegman and I are fingers crossed, the second one will be Maximum Carnage, because obviously, right? But then if you do 2 films and you do Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes and then Maximum Carnage, you've kind of run out of classic Venom stories, right? So we're hoping that the 3rd one will be our story. Yeah, fingers crossed, knock on wood. Yeah.
So,
no, we can keep on it. Hey, buddy. Speaking of Venom, hey. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So, since you are writing like 20 series, all together, I'm wondering if you have time to read some current comics, and if there's a series you enjoy as a reader.
I don't have time to read anything, which is weirdly, I mean, that's the depressing part of getting busy with comics, is that no one ever tells you that you just won't have time to read anything. But the irony is that I get all the comics for free now. Everyone just sends me all the comics, so they just pile up. It's the cruelest joke of all. I find time for anything that Jason Aaron writes. Jason Aaron's my favorite writer on the planet, and his Thor series, since his first issue of Thor, almost, what, like 60 issues ago and 6 years ago, has been phenomenal. And the War of the Realms event that's coming up next year, I'm in the room. We go to these Marvel creative summits and stuff, and so I know everything that's happening in the War of the Realms. It's insane. It's going to be amazing. And his creator-owned works as well, just phenomenal.
How about Southern Western? Because I believe you are from South, right?
Well, I'm from Texas, which is different a little bit.
Yeah.
No one from Texas would say, geographically, yes, we're in the South, but no one from Texas would call themselves from the South. Texas is its own thing. I'm splitting hairs, but
so
yes.
you're a Cowboys fan?
Legally, yeah, I have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are done with this interview.
Yeah. Flip this shit.
No, I'm just messing.
Yeah, Southern Bastards is so good that I can't read it. Every issue that comes out, I have to put it at the bottom of my stack, and I have to be done with everything that I'm writing before I read it, because I'll read it and I'll just quit. Because it's so unbelievably good that I'll never be as good as that. What else am I reading that's really good? Grant's Green Lantern that just came out is fucking amazing.
Really?
I'm a huge fan of Hal Jordan, and I'm not the biggest DC guy in the world, even though my name is DC, and everyone really thinks that's funny. I'm a big Batman fan, obviously, like everybody else. I had to read on issues of Spider-Man and GL, so I've never not bought an issue of Lantern, and his stuff is amazing. And for a while, this is an exclusive for you guys. Before I signed exclusive with Marvel, I was offered an exclusive at DC, and one of the titles that they wanted me to write was a Lantern book, and so they handed me the full kind of outline for what Grant's doing. So I happen to know where it's going and everything. And it's Grant, so of course it's unreal and insane and huge and stuff. So I'm very excited about that.
Isn't that like spoilers for you, as a fan, to know
Everything's
where it's going?
spoiled for me, and nothing is a surprise anymore. Like DC stuff, because I'm friends with Scott Snyder and Tom King and all of it. We all talk, but we don't really ever talk about work. When we hang out at shows and stuff, we don't talk about plots and stuff. But every now and then I'll be talking to Scott, and Scott will ask me what I'm doing in some of my books and everything, and then he'll start to launch into like what he's doing in some of his books, and I'll be like, no, please don't tell me anything, because like DC books are kind of the only books that I can read that I can get surprised, because I know everything that happens at Marvel, and that's also why I'm a big fan of the Marvel films, because I don't know anything. I don't know anything. So like going into Infinity War, I had no idea, and also as the guy who just wrote a book called Thanos Wins, Infinity War was amazing. Jim Zub was we went to the premiere together. Not the premiere, but we went the opening night in Calgary. So it was so good. I started screaming in the theater. I was a child. When Thanos started to win, I was losing my fucking mind, because I just wrote that book. And at the end it's my favorite story, at the end, the final shot of the film, when Thanos has won and he's done it, and it just cuts to black, I stood up in the theater and cheered. And I looked around and no one else was cheering, and everyone was staring at me like crazy. I look over at Jim, and Jim goes, no one else was rooting for Thanos. I was like, oh, right.
Sit
right.
back down.
That's supposed to be a bad ending. Yeah. It was immediately a film with Venom in it. It's been very surreal. Like everything I get on, and he's suddenly all around me.
That's like some sort of pattern.
Yeah.
Which character you should write now?
I know,
so we can
right?
get a movie.
We want a
I know.
movie,
I hope Cosmic Ghost Rider finds his way into something, at least a cartoon or something. I feel like he's ripe for it.
Also with the older work like Paybacks and the one with Trucker Ghost Fleet.
Yeah.
It seems like you are a fan of action B movies.
Yeah.
Which one of those were your inspiration, or which one are your favorite?
Well, Ghost Fleet is kind of my ode to John Carpenter. It's every John Carpenter film kind of stuffed into one. It's Big Trouble in Little China, which is probably my favorite film of all time. which my fiance has never seen, which is so irritating because I quote it all the time. Yeah, I'm a big fan of any trucker film. It's a genre of film that we just don't make anymore.
Yeah, the one with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, over the
they are
top?
arm wrestling?
Oh, you mean where Lincoln Hawk has to arm wrestle for the custody of his child? Yeah, the greatest film of all time. Yeah, Over the Top is a classic. Black Dog's a great trucker film. Duel is a great trucker film. Yeah, I like terrible films. I'm a big fan of really terrible shit. Not that Big Trouble in Little China is terrible. It's a perfect film.
Do you know Toxic Avenger?
Hell yeah, Toxic, son.
Or Night of the Chicken Dead.
I don't know that one.
It's from the same creator.
Trauma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trauma. It's my favorite.
Okay. Check that out.
Toxic Avenger.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's wrap up this awesome interview with the last question.
Sure.
We will be asking every creator here. So
what was it?
because unfortunately
Sorry.
none of your works were translated to
Yeah,
Czech
right.
language.
Yeah.
So
Which one would you recommend
Yeah.
for being
Oh.
released in our country?
God, I don't know. On the indie side, God Country. On my Marvel side, Thanos wins.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, we will tell them to.
Yeah, tell them.
We will show them.
Yes.
We'll show them the interview. So thank you very much
Of
for your
course.
time.
So-
It
Yeah,
was
it was fun.
amazing interview.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah.
The rest of the Vienna Con.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Grab me the biggest coffee imaginable. Yeah, I know you know.